I'm posting this video to hopefully find someone who knows what machine this came from, and also as a bit of a sanity check because I'm fairly new to machining, but this yeah, this thing has some weirdness about it. I'll go into that in a minute. The only marks I can find on it are just marks here and here, which sort of, oh, and here and here. So this one is a number 1 and a number 1 on this plate, a number 1 and a number 1 on this plate. Now I know it's a cross slide and a compound top slide for a lathe of some kind, but like I say, it's got some really weird stuff going on. I mean, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's chunky as anything. I'll give you a quick measurement across the top here. So that is 4 and 3/8 inches, that is. And then we've got like 5, oh, and a bunch of 76, 16ths. Not that we're used to working in imperial, but most of the stuff that I'm finding is in imperial, but hopefully you guys can see what that is. Anyway, chunky is anything. And when I first found it, I found it with my stepdad in there was an old workshop that was being chucked out. None of the people there were machinists, which is why it was being chucked out. The rest of the machine wasn't there. It was just this and this, and they were actually detached at the time. Both me and my stepdad didn't really have a plan for it, but we both recognised that it was quite a nice piece of kit. You know, it's really chunky. I didn't have a plan for it at the time, and I was going off and travelling, so my stepdad took it. He has a small Myford and he doesn't have a milling attachment, so he wanted to turn it into a milling attachment for his lathe. And you can see that's the only bit of damage on the bottom here, is because he didn't have a dedicated milling setup, and he attempted to flatten off the top. He started with this bit, which doesn't actually matter too much because this is threaded quite deeply all the way down, so there's only sort of 1/4 of an inch. But you can see that, like, without a very rigid setup on his little benchtop lathe, he didn't make much of a mark really. Yeah, it's very odd, and I'll go into that now. There's these blocks on the table to... So first things first, like, even though I've not done much machining, my hands are sort of getting fairly used to which direction things should move in. And you can see here, it's moving in the opposite way to things, to how most machines work. I should point out as well, there's very little oil on here because I've cleaned it off just for this video. I will be oiling it before I put it away, and so I've loosened off the gibs and everything just so that I'm not doing any damage while I'm moving it around. Yeah, so it's right hand thread, which is odd. But what gets even stranger, because it's got no dials on it, so I thought, you know, that's okay, I'll make up some dials for it. My plans for it were to turn it into either a micro milling machine, because it's so sturdy. I thought, you know, I can make a tiny mill, and that'd be great. I decided against that actually, because the more my knowledge is coming on, I haven't actually come across any job that I can't do on the lathe just yet with, you know, I've got a milling attachment on that, and yeah, I just need to learn how to use it and make everything rigid on there, and so making an entirely new milling machine is a bit of a distraction really, until I come across a job that I need it for. The other thought which I had was, at the moment the compound on my lathe is the nut is really worn, and I thought, you know, maybe I can take this one, put it on there, use it as a temporary, cut myself a new nut. But I don't think this is, it's a bit too thick to go onto my one. It's about 2 inches deep, and also the location of the tool post here would mean that I'd have quite a lot of overhang, I think, and it might cause me issues getting under work and that sort of stuff, so I sort of gave that up for a bad job. And that plan has kind of changed now that I found out how weird the things are with this thing. I'll show you what I mean. So I thought, you know, I'll make up some dials for it. So in order to make up dials for it, I need to know how many teeth per inch it's got. There's a few ways of doing that. You know, you can count the teeth, the threads per inch. So let's put this into inches, 0 it. I'll take this out to 1 inch, and we'll measure how many threads per inch it's got. So, you know, usual, I guess, would be like 10. And that'll give you a nice number of graduations, maybe 20. It's not 20, I can sort of tell that from looking at it. Or, you know, it might be a metric one. Or it might have 8. You know, an 8 is still divisible into 1,000, so that would be okay too. But this one, just slightly over there. These aren't particularly accurate, but they're accurate enough for this. But you can see here, we have, just find myself a pointer. Not the best pointer in the world, but yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. I mean, do the maths on that. Yeah, it's not nice maths. And just to confirm it, because I was sort of like, maybe I'm measuring the, you know, I'm still learning, so maybe I'm measuring it wrong. So next thing I did was take my calipers like this. Let's undo that. And again, this is a little bit rough because there's no marks here for me to tell when I've actually done 1 revolution. But yeah, so let's 0 that, and we'll go, yeah, the opposite way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you can see there, we're pretty much, I mean, 4/1000th out, but that could easily be me not quite getting in the position right back here, or measurement isn't quite sitting right here, or my calipers are out. That's entirely possible. But yeah, we've got pretty much exactly 1 inch. So this is 7 teeth per inch, and that just makes all sorts of maths and everything complicated for when you're trying to work things out. So that makes me think that this is possibly a very early thing before, you know, because if you were going to buy these off the shelf, you wouldn't buy a 7 teeth per inch. I don't know, not if you had a choice. So it makes me think this is possibly quite an early machine. I mean, and that's why I'm putting this out there, is just to see if anyone's got any ideas why it might have that pitch, what machine it might have come from, and what to do with it really. Because at the moment, all I'm going to do with it is kind of cover it in oil, and put it in a place where it's not going to get knocked or bashed in the workshop, and just kind of hope I bump into someone someday that can shed some light on it. It's quite nice as well, like you've got angle adjustment down here on the cross slide with these 2 bolts. They are a little bit annoying to take off, on and off, in that you kind of have to unscrew them, lift the thing up, unscrew them a bit more, lift it up in order for them to come out, because the bottoms of the ways here get under, the bottoms of the dovetails here kind of catch on the bolts that are there. And yeah, so I'll give you another shot of the underside, and before I go, I'll kind of show you a close-up of all around the thing. This bottom thread as well is also 7 teeth per inch, of course it is. And yeah, it's got beautiful gibs, and it's just a lovely piece of engineering. So a bit of a closer view of the underside here. See, it's got three adjusters for the gibs, and that's the same on the, oh no, it's only got 2, my mistake, it's only got 2 on the top slide. And if anyone wants any pictures or details of this, any specific part of it I've missed out, feel free to comment and just let me know, and I'll stick some more video up, pictures. Yeah, if you know anyone who knows much about old machines. Oh, I'm in the UK as well, so it's probably an old British or possibly European machine. I'm kind of considering maybe putting a new nut and threads in it. That's quite easy. Both the threads sort of, they push out from the opposite side, so it's quite easy to replace the nut. It's quite easy to replace the thread, so I could turn it into a usable thing, but if it's a museum piece, then it's a museum piece, you know? Maybe I shouldn't be hacking around with this thing and changing it too much. Love to hear your opinions, anyway. Yeah, if you know anyone who might know about this, please share. Yeah, just want to shed some light on this thing. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.